Dear friends, welcome to Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where each week, twice a week, we discuss a section of the Bhagavatam and consider lessons that we can apply in life. As we wait for some of our regulars to join, I will chant some prayers of invocation. Recently, I found some nice prayers from the 12th canto, so I'll chant those for your pleasure. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 12, Chapter 13, Text 15. Sarva Vedanta Saramhi Shri Bhagavatam Misyate Tadrasamrita Triptasya Nayantrasya Rati Kvachit. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared as the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt satisfaction from its nectarian mellow will never be attracted to any other literature. 12th Canto, Chapter 13, Text 16. Dimano ganam yata gango devanam achyuta yata Vaishnavanam yata shambhu purananam idam tata. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, and Lord Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. What a wonderful verse. Text 21. So 12th Canto, Chapter 13, Text 21. Yogindraya namastasmai Shukaya Brahmarupine Samsara Sarapadrastam Yo Vishnu Ratam Amuchayat. I'm going to chant that again. Vishnu Ratam Amuchat. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Sukadev Goswami, the best of mystic sages and a personal manifestation of the absolute truth. He saved Maharaj Parikshit, who was bitten by the snake of material existence. Okay, I'll chant one more verse and then I'll start greeting those of you who have arrived for this discussion. This is the final verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So a very famous verse, a very wonderful verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 13, Verse 23. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Samanas Tam Namami Harim Param. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. That is the final verse of the Bhagavatam. It's quite wonderful how the final verse of the Bhagavatam is glorifying Sankirtan. And it is, in a way, forestalling or prophesizing the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, let's acknowledge our friends who joined for this discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. We have with us Shyama Manjari, joining from South Africa. Shyama Manjari says, Hare Krishna, Sri Prahlada Prabhuji, and all dear assembled devotees. Welcome, Shyama Manjari. Thank you for being here for this discussion. Joining us, we have to acknowledge, we will acknowledge over and again, joining us very late for you, showing your determination and dedication. Kirtida joining from Norway, sending gratitude. Tulsi leaves flowers. Nikunja is with us from Auckland, New Zealand. Nikunja says, Hare Krishna, Sri Prahlada Prabhu. Thank you for joining, Nikunja. We're grateful for your presence. Janavamata joins from Dunedin in the South Island of New Zealand. Janavamata says, Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we have with us Alicia, also joining from Auckland, New Zealand. Alicia says, Kia ora, Prabhu. Hope you're safe and well. I'm watching from work. Nectar. Well, that's the way to work. You know what, Alicia? Today we're going to be discussing Krishna at work in Mathura. So you might find this particularly interesting to watch from work. And you can think about Krishna doing his work in his office, so to speak. That's the topic of our discussion. The title, Krishna's Courtly Assembly in Dvaraka. So you might find it particularly pertinent based on chapters 70 and 71 of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, let us begin then. Once again, welcome to Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where each week we discuss, twice a week, we discuss some section of the Bhagavatam and consider some lessons for us to apply in life, really to develop our relationship with Krishna, to develop Krishna consciousness. In the last couple of classes, we have been following Krishna's home activities in Dvaraka, how Krishna lives with 16,108 queens. I said that in past tense, but these pastimes are actually eternal. There is an eternal Dvaraka where Krishna lives with 16,108 queens. In chapter 69, we followed Narada Muni as he visited Krishna's palaces. He found in each palace, Krishna was engaged in some different activity. And the devotees that he was engaged with were thinking that Krishna was exclusively engaged in different activities with them. In chapter 70, we had a glimpse of Krishna's activities as he rises each morning, woken by the sounds of the birds, who were woken by the bees that had smelled the fragrance of parijata and caused them to start buzzing. How Krishna would rise, and then his wives, they would curse those birds who woke up Krishna with the indicating the arrival of morning. How Krishna meditated on himself, took his bath, and performed various rituals, chanting Gayatri, giving charity, and so on. So these were the activities of Krishna's waking up. And with these descriptions, we can think of Krishna and meditate on him as we engage in these activities. Krishna is a person, the supreme personality of Godhead. And he has these activities, and we are also persons. And so we also have similar types of activities, and we can purify them by meditating on Krishna. And what better way to meditate than to think, oh, I'm rising. This is how Krishna rises. This is how Krishna bathes. This is what Krishna does in the morning. He meditates on himself. Of course, I'm not going to meditate on myself. I'm not God. Krishna meditates on himself because he's God. I will meditate on Krishna. And so we followed Krishna's morning routines leading up to his entry into the Sudama assembly hall, where he goes each day. That's his workplace. So anyone who leaves their home to go for work, we can also meditate on Krishna, going to his place of work. How wonderful is this Krishna consciousness? It is not life-denying, but life-affirming, seeing everything in relation to Krishna, not the denial of existence, but the transcendental, the spiritualization of our existence by seeing everything in relation to Krishna. So today we're going to follow Krishna to work. We had his arrival in the assembly hall, but we're going to follow some activities within that Sudama assembly hall. So once again, we're discussing Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10, chapters 70 and 71. And for chapter 70, we're discussing verses 22 through to 47. And then for chapter 71, we're discussing verses 1 all the way through to 47. So we'll complete these two chapters. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are going to discuss these chapters under 4 headings. Yes, we are covering a lot today, and so we have 4 headings rather than the usual 3. Excuse me. And these 4 headings are: 1, messenger from 20,000 kings. 2, that's chapter 70, verses 22 to 31. 2, Narada's arrival, verses chapter 70, verses 32 to 47. 3, Uddhava's advice, chapter 71, verses 1 through to 9. And then 4, Krishna's decision, chapter 71, verses 10 to 47. So let's dive in, beginning with messenger from 20,000 kings. One day, when Krishna was sitting in the Sudharma assembly hall in Dvaraka, the doorkeepers announced a messenger had come. He was a messenger who was unknown to them. They hadn't seen him before. And so they announced him to Krishna and escorted him inside the assembly hall. With joined palms, this messenger described to Krishna how 20,000 kings were suffering. They had been imprisoned by a nemesis of Krishna's, that is Jarasandha. You remember Jarasandha? He attacked Mathura 18 times. 17 times Krishna had him caught and let go because he saw that this Jarasandha was a good organizer. He could assemble a big army and bring those demoniac kings, demoniac soldiers, demoniac forces to attack Mathura, where Krishna had appeared at the request of the demigods to relieve the earth of the burden of unnecessary defense forces or demons posing in the royal order. So he was using Jarasandha in one sense as a useful fool. So each time he would destroy all the armies, capture Jarasandha, and let him go. Jarasandha would go back, bring together another army, huge army he would bring. And again, Krishna would let him go. This happened 17 times. On the 18th time, if you remember, Krishna and Balaram, they decided, because who was attacking at the same time? Kalyavana. He was attacking at the same time. And so Krishna, he led Kalyavana to be killed by Muchukunda. And then he decided, he and Balaram, they just ran away. They fled Jarasandha. Jarasandha felt very powerful, very successful. Krishna's running away from me. How great am I? And so Krishna has used Jarasandha as a useful fool, in a sense. Now Krishna is receiving a message from 20,000 kings who have been imprisoned by Jarasandha. Now think of Narakasura. He had imprisoned 16,108 princesses. And Krishna went and killed Narakasura and liberated those princesses. Now he has intelligence, news, information about Jarasandha having captured and imprisoned 20,000 kings. He had imprisoned them in his fortress called Girivraja. These were kings who had refused to submit to him during his world conquest. And so the kings, they sent a prayer with a messenger. Dear Krishna, O immeasurable soul, destroyer of the fear in those who have surrendered to you. Despite our separatist attitude until now, we were trying to enjoy independently from you. Now we come to you for shelter. Yes, we are driven by fear of material existence, but through our suffering, we've also come to realize that we need to take shelter of you. Your feet will relieve the sorrow that we feel in our hearts, because they relieve the sorrow of any who surrender unto them. Therefore, please protect us. Please release us from the shackles of karma that are manifesting as the king of Magadha, Jarasandha. He has the prowess of 10,000 maddened elephants, and he's locked us up in his palace dungeon as a lion captures sheep. And so they pray, O Krishna, wielder of the disc, your strength is unlimited. 17 times you crushed Jarasandha in battle. But then, absorbed in your pastimes, you allowed him to defeat you once. Now, he is so proud, he dares to torment us who are your subjects. Please rectify the situation. And so this was the message brought by this messenger of the kings. He said, these kings, they're all hankering for your audience, having surrendered at your lotus feet. Please bestow good fortune upon these poor souls. So a heartfelt entreaty from the kings. We can pause here and reflect. We can think about, one, the importance of seeking help. The kings, through their messenger, they demonstrate how when we are in trouble, we need to give up our pride, and that might prevent us from seeking assistance. And we need to take shelter of one who is more powerful and who is ultimately, that means you take shelter. We all take shelter of Krishna. Krishna is the supreme power, the supreme protector, the supreme well-wisher. And so seeking help, that's one lesson for us. Another is accepting responsibility. The kings, they acknowledge, Krishna, it might appear that we're only surrendering to you in times of trouble. And that would be true. We have ignored you until now. But this suffering has brought to us also realization. And we realize that we shouldn't maintain this separatist attitude, this desire for independence from you. We need to take shelter of you. And so this is a powerful gesture of accountability. It takes humility as well. And it's a pivotal step in any personal growth, spiritual growth in particular. It's about rectification and charting a new direction. Finally, these kings, they demonstrate realization because they say, we are not merely physically captured by Jarasandha, but we are also captured by the shackles of worldly attachment. And so they're asking Krishna not to just rescue them from Jarasandha, but they're also asking to be rescued from material existence. This indicates the soul's quest for deliverance from entanglement. Here, the entanglement is both literal, but it's also spiritual as well. The spirit soul has been entangled in material affairs. The gunas, they're compared to ropes that tie up the soul. And so they're speaking to Krishna, asking for deliverance as people, as kings, but also as souls who are bound up in material existence. In this sense, we can think of suffering also as mercy. Once Haridas Thakur, when he was put into prison by the Muslim ruler, some fellow prisoners, they came to him and they offered their respects and they said, please bless us. And Haridas Thakur said, I bless you to remain in prison. And they said, what kind of sadhu are you who blesses people to continue to suffer? Sadhus are compassionate and kind, but you're speaking with, your words are mean and hurtful. And Haridas Thakur says, no, don't take it that way. He said, when you are out of prison, you're engaged in all kinds of sinful activity. And here in the prison, you have become humble and you are asking for the blessings of a sadhu. And so there's some good that's come from this. And therefore, I said to you, may you remain in the prison. But my real desire is that you remain in this elevated state of consciousness where you are willing to seek spiritual shelter. Of course, we don't desire anyone to remain in prison or to remain in suffering, but we can see here how suffering can be a catalyst for spiritual realization, insight, and growth as well. And we see that in the case of these kings. And when we struggle, when we suffer, we might also look to see, how can this be an impetus for me to become more spiritually realized and detached, and to see this also as Krishna's blessing upon me, Krishna's mercy on me. Okay, our second topic, Narada's arrival. Chapter 70, verses 32 to 47. As the king's messenger, the messenger of these 20,000 kings, finished speaking, Narada arrived. He's described as having a golden mass of matted hair that shone brightly as he entered like the sun in its brilliance. So that's quite a wonderful description. Elsewhere, we've also read of Lord Shiva having golden hair, and here Narada Muni is described as having golden matted hair. Once Narada Muni was comfortably seated, Krishna offered his respects, showing him the honor that is due a guest according to Vedic teaching and culture. And then Krishna spoke nice words to the sage. It's also part of that greeting. He says, today the three worlds must feel free from fear due to the presence of a great soul like you who travels freely through the universe. And he said, nothing in the entire creation is hidden from you. So please tell us about the intentions of the Pandavas. Krishna is asking for some news. Narada Muni, he always has news because he travels throughout the universe. He sees everything and he knows everything. Krishna is saying here, please tell us about the intentions of the Pandavas. Narada says, I have witnessed the immense power of your illusion, O mighty Krishna, which even confuses Brahma, the creator. He said, Krishna, your ability to disguise yourself in your creation like a fire hidden by smoke is most wonderful. In other words, Krishna, you already know everything about the Pandavas and their intention, but I surrender to your will. I take it as an instruction. And he said that Yudhisthira Maharaj, your devotee, and your family member, he has a plan that is to conduct the Raja Suya Yagya. And he wants your blessing to conduct this sacrifice. His intention is that the demigods and the illustrious kings of the world will come to see you at this great sacrifice. And he said, Krishna, even those cast aside are purified by hearing and chanting your glories and meditating on you, the absolute truth. How much more so for those who desire to see and touch you. And so Narada Muni reveals this desire of Yudhisthira Maharaj to perform this sacrifice that will make him the emperor of the world. All the kings of the earth will come and pay tribute. But he also reveals Yudhisthira Maharaj's intention that he will honor Krishna in that great assembly, and all the kings of the world will come and have Krishna's darshan and be purified. That is the heart of the Vaishnava. Krishna looked to the Yadus to see how they were responding, how would they react to Narada Muni's news. And he saw that they were hesitating to support Yudhisthira Maharaj's proposal. And the reason why they were hesitating is because they had just heard news about Jarasandha and how Jarasandha had imprisoned 20,000 kings. So this seems to be the priority over Yudhisthira Maharaj's sacrifice. And so the Yadus seem to be indicating that Krishna should be giving his attention to these kings rather than to Yudhisthira Maharaj's proposal of being coronated as the emperor at the grand Rajasuya Yagya, where Krishna will also be honored. And so Krishna, he turned to Uddhava, his trusted advisor and cousin. Krishna said, Uddhava, you see with clarity and are our dearest friend. You know the value of different advice. Please tell us what should be done. We trust your judgment and will follow your counsel. And so Krishna, who played the part of the one who was perplexed. He asked Uddhava's advice, and Uddhava accepted this responsibility to give Krishna some advice. So we can pause here for some lessons that we can take from this passage. One is to see the virtue of humility. Krishna's interactions with Narad Muni, as well as with Uddhava, they exemplify humility, and humility as a strength. Even with Krishna's stature as the Supreme Lord, he honors Narada Muni and he seeks the advice of Uddhava, reflecting the timeless value of humility, regardless of one's status, position, or power. Narada Muni's demeanor provides a complementary lesson to us. Though he surrenders to Krishna, he also takes the role, or we see also in Uddhava, they take the role of sage and the role of advisor. And so there's something wonderful here, this dual role of humility as an essential virtue, but it also doesn't undermine one's ability to lead and offer wisdom as well. Krishna and his devotees, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, taking a humble position in front of his devotees, Uddhava, or Narada Muni, and Uddhava. Uddhava and Narada Muni both acknowledging Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but nonetheless stepping up and accepting Krishna's, in Narada Muni's case, accepting Krishna's worship, and Uddhava's case, agreeing to offer Krishna advice. And so there's something wonderful here about humility as an essential virtue, but not undermining one's ability to serve and offer wisdom and provide leadership as well. And it shows us how true leadership is also grounded in humility. Humility to serve and the wisdom to guide, irrespective of one's greatness. Prabhupada was both humble and a leader at the same time. And so there's a nice contrast here of these two qualities of both being humble and taking leadership and advising and guiding at the same time. They appear contradictory, but actually they are complementary. There's also a nice instruction for us in Yudhisthira Maharaja's ambition. Yudhisthira Maharaj wants to perform the Rajasuya Yagya. He wants to be acknowledged as the emperor of the world. Think of the history here of the Kuru crown, how it was passed from his father, not to him, but to Dhritarashtra, and how Dhritarashtra is holding on to it lustfully and wants to pass it on to Duryodhana, and how Duryodhana has attempted to assassinate the Pandavas, and how reluctantly he eventually agreed to give a portion of the kingdom, the least populated, most desolate portion, to Yudhisthira and his brothers. But with Krishna's help, they made it prosperous and glorious. They established the city of Indraprastha, that great city named after the king of the gods, who was also the father of Arjuna. And so now with this opulent city and kingdom, Yudhisthira wants to perform a sacrifice that will have all the kings of the earth pay tribute to him, not in Hastinapur, but Indraprastha. And so the emperor will be acknowledged as residing not in the old Kuru capital, but in the new Kuru capital, ruled by Yudhisthira Maharaj. So it appears externally as politically ambitious, and yet Narada Muni has also revealed a transcendental desire within this. He wants, by seeking sovereignty, he also wants to honor a higher spiritual order. Yudhisthira exemplifies how a leader can use their position to bring together various factions, the different demigods and kings, in a common uplifting purpose. That is Krishna. Krishna, the central point in the expanding circle of existence. And so Yudhisthira wants to lead an act of collective worship as a spiritually minded ruler. and thus act as a catalyst for harmony and purification. And so there's a nice illustration here that the highest ambition of the devotee is that which elevates not just oneself, but all of society towards connection with Krishna, using the facilities, the resources of one's position, one's role in society in service to Krishna as well, for the benefit of humanity, or the benefit of greater society. Externally, it might appear to be material ambition, but the Vaishnava's heart must be understood also by asking an inquiry or revelation. And when we dig deeper, we'll find something wonderful. The Vaishnava's apparent ambition is actually for expanding Krishna's glory. Let's go to our third point then, Uddhava's advice. So remember, Krishna's turned to Uddhava to say, Uddhava, what should I do? Do I rescue these kings, or should I go and bless Yudhisthira Maharaj in his desire to perform the Rajasuya Yagya? So after hearing Narada Muni, having heard the messenger from the kings, Uddhava, he gave his wise counsel. He said, Krishna, as Narada has suggested, you should assist your cousin Yudhisthira in his quest to perform the Rajasuya Yagya. At the same time, you should also protect the kings who are seeking your refuge. It's not a this or that question, but rather both things should be addressed. And now Uddhava reveals his brilliant plan, his brilliant thinking. He said, to perform the Rajasuya Yagya, Yudhisthira will have to defeat, or at least subjugate, all the kings of the earth, including Jarasandha. So my advice is that Yudhisthira's performing the Rajasuya Yagya will in fact serve both aims. Jarasandha will be defeated, and the Rajasuya Yagya will be performed. And with this action, there will be glory. There will be glory for the Yadus, glory for Dvaraka. Your glory will also be established. You, Govinda, will be celebrated for having saved the kings. Jarasandha is very powerful. He's unbeatable. He's as strong as 10,000 elephants. That was already said by the messengers. No one can defeat him except for Bhima. And so I suggest that he be challenged to a duel, and the challenge should come from Bhima disguised as a Brahmana, because Jarasandha, he very much respects Brahmanas. So let Bhima, disguised as a Brahmana, ask for a fight. And then once they come to hand combat, then Bhima will surely defeat him in your presence. Uddhava said, in their homes, the wives of the imprisoned kings sing your glory. They believe that you will defeat their enemy and free their husbands. The gopis, the sages under your protection, and we ourselves sing of how you have vanquished foes to protect the distressed. Krishna, killing Jarasandha, a consequence of his own misdeeds, will bring many benefits to all, and it will allow the performance of the Rajasuya Yagya you wish for. So we can pause here again for life lessons, and we can reflect on this achieving multiple goals with a single action. There's a nice lesson for us here about the value of strategic efficiency, achieving multiple objectives with a single well-planned activity. Uddhava's counsel to Krishna illustrates the wisdom of looking for solutions that address several problems or challenges all at once. In fact, that is Rupa Goswami's definition of expert, to achieve many things by doing one thing. We can think about from an earlier discussion we had when Krishna entered the cave of Muchakunda. So two things happened. One, Krishna woke up Muchakunda because Kalyavana, and Kalyavana was killed. So Kalyavana, he went into the cave, he saw Muchakunda lying, he thought it was Krishna, he kicked him. Muchakunda woke up, looked at Kalyavana, and he had a blessing. Anyone that he looks at, anyone who disturbs his sleep, will be burned to ashes. So Krishna led Kalyavana into the cave. He kicked Muchakunda, and Muchakunda killed him. And then Krishna stepped out and revealed himself as having achieved two things with one thing, one action, two causes met. He woke up his devotee and he killed the demon Kalyavana. And so here Uddhava is suggesting something similar. Let's go to our fourth section, Krishna's decision. What will Krishna decide to do now that he's heard from messenger, he's heard from Narad Muni, he's heard Uddhava's advice? Sukadeva Goswami tells us Narada, the Yadu elders, and Krishnas all favored Uddhava's perfect and auspicious proposal. And Krishna sought permission from his elders to proceed to Indraprastha. Narada Muni was fully satisfied by meeting Krishna. He bowed, he held Krishna in his heart, and he left. How did he leave? By foot? No. By chariot? No. He left by flying into the sky. He traveled through the skies. The messenger, he was reassured of Krishna's promise that he would deal with Jarasandha, and he left to convey Krishna's words to the expectant kings that soon they will be delivered from Jarasandha. And after making arrangements for his family and bidding farewell to Balaram and the king Ugrasena Maharaj, Krishna ascended his chariot with its Garuda flag, and to the sounds of drums and conch shells and trumpets, Krishna, he set off for Indraprastha, flanked by army divisions and guarded by a formidable escort. Krishna was accompanied by his wives, who were dressed in their finest garments and ornaments. They were carried in palanquins and surrounded by soldiers. Along with them, there were also entertainers and other support personnel. And it looked very wonderful, like an ocean moving. The army, the palanquins, the other retinue. Krishna, he traveled through different regions, crossing over rivers, passing through cities and villages, eventually arriving in Indraprastha. And when he arrived, Yudhisthira was full of joy. He went out of the city with priests and friends to greet Krishna and welcome him to the city, his heart overflowing with love. He embraced Krishna again and again. Bhima, Arjuna, the twins Nakula and Sahadev also embraced Krishna, shedding tears of joy. There was music, there was dancing, there were prayers offered by brahmanas as Krishna entered the city, which had been decorated with flags and other ornaments. It had been perfumed with fragrant water. People were dressed in their best clothes to receive Krishna. The city's women, on hearing of his arrival, they rushed to see him, leaving aside their duties. And when they saw how crowded the streets were, they went up to the rooftops, and with flowers they showered them upon Krishna, welcoming him to the city with their loving glances. They also marveled at Krishna's queens, who were accompanying him as he entered the cities. Krishna received many gifts as he entered the city. And Kunti, once Krishna arrived in the palace, she rushed forward with Draupadi, her daughter-in-law, and embraced Krishna, feeling so much love for her divine nephew. Yudhisthira, he showed Krishna to his quarters, and he was so overwhelmed with happiness, he almost forgot the proper etiquette, proper rituals of reception as Krishna was brought into the palace. Krishna paid his respects to his aunt Kunti as well as to Draupadi, and Krishna's sister as well was there to greet him, Subhadra, wife of Arjuna. Draupadi gave gifts to Krishna's queens, gave them clothes and garlands and jewelry. So the queens are mentioned by name: Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitravinda, Nagnajiti, and others we can imagine, Lakshmana, and other principal queens. They all received gifts from Draupadi. Yudhisthira, he also ensured that Krishna's retinue were properly taken care of, that they had a comfortable stay, and every day he arranged for different activities and delights to entertain Krishna and the queens and the soldiers and ministers and secretaries. And Krishna stayed there for several months. And he also went out with Arjuna and offered the Kandava forest to the fire god. He rescued Mayadanava, who later built the assembly hall for Yudhisthira Maharaj. And it's interesting because we've actually already read about Arjuna offering the Kandava forest and receiving celestial weapons to do so and rescuing Mayadanava when we discussed Krishna's marriage to Kalindi. And so our acharyas say that that Sukadeva Goswami has become excited talking about Krishna's visit to Indraprastha, and so he's mixing up some of the stories, and he's telling some of the stories that have already been told. He's describing events that have already been described because he's in so much ecstasy. But we can reflect here as we come to the end of this description. We can reflect on the importance of collaboration. Krishna, he is coming to Yudhisthira Maharaj. He wants to fulfill the promises made to the messenger of those kings. He also wants to fulfill the request of Yudhisthira given through Narada Muni. And so, having listened to different proposals, particularly Uddhava's guidance, now he's come to Yudhisthira Maharaj, and he's collaborating. He's entering into a collaboration with Yudhisthira Maharaj to achieve these different purposes that are needed. And this harmonious blend of collaboration and respect culminates in this joyous welcome in Indraprastha. There's an indication here of the importance of working together to achieve common goals or common purposes. So let us conclude with a prayer. Beloved Krishna, at once the kings imprisoned by Jarasandha sought your refuge in their direst hour. So too we lay down the burdens of our pride, reaching for your divine grace. In humility we bow, acknowledging the wanderings of our past, where shadows of separation clouded our sight. Yet in this moment of clarity, we find the courage to change course, to embrace the quest for devotion that stirs deep within us, beyond the earthly chains. May our ambitions mirror the noble Yudhisthira's, not for domination, but for harmonious reverence in your worship, bringing together the fragments of our world in a symphony of unity under the shelter of your lotus feet. In choices great and small, inspire us to knit our actions into a fabric of collective elevation, each deed shining with the collaborative spirit of unity in your service. We are your humble servants, walking the path you illuminate in the shade of your lotus feet. Okay, so there we conclude. I see some questions and comments here. So any of you who have any reflections or questions that you would like to discuss more deeply, please do share those and we can discuss them. Let's see here. Rasa Stali says, Pranams la familia. So Rasa Stali joining us from South Africa, speaking to us in French or Spanish. Welcome, Rasa Stali. Thank you for being here. Janavamata shares a comment, humility in leadership. What a beautiful lesson, and how it's empowering to those who are touched by that humility. Thank you for pointing that out. Krishna and his devotees are so cool, spelt Kooool. Thank you for that appreciation, Janavamata. Humble leadership. It's actually very powerful, and we see it in great leaders. We see it in Krishna. We see it in Prabhupada, and we see it in other great leaders as well. Even in modern times, people, they take inspiration from the leadership of Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, and there's a certain assertiveness and a sense of rightness, being on the side of Dharma. At the same time, there's a humility in their leadership as well. And I can say that I've done research on humble leadership and published in that area. And our findings are that the followers of humble leaders, they perceive their leaders as making the best decisions. Why? Because they take into account the different views of those around them, or the views of experts. And so, because of their humility, they're able to gather together the best information and then make the best decisions. And that is perceived by their followers, that they are making well thought through, well considered decisions that are in the best interests of not only the leader, but the followers and the organization, or the cause that they are leading as a whole. So yeah, humble leadership is very powerful. Thank you for that recognition or appreciation. Janavamata says, a Vaishnava's ambition is for expanding Krishna's glory. I love that. So that's an appreciation of Yudhisthira Maharaj's ambition. Why do you want to be the emperor? Apparently a very materialistic desire, but he reveals his ambition. I want everyone to see. Later on, actually, we'll discuss. Krishna will meet with Yudhisthira, and Yudhisthira will again express his desire that he wants to perform the Rajasuya Yaga. And Krishna will say, why? Why this Rajasuya Yaga? And Yudhisthira Maharaj says, I want people to see the glory of your devotional service. I want people to see the opulences of your devotees. And so, yeah, what a wonderful objective. And in our tradition, we are warned, don't judge the Vaishnava by the externals, because the Vaishnava's heart is very deep, and we can't always understand by looking externally what it is that the Vaishnava is trying to achieve. We're told in our tradition, if you see Nityananda Prabhu entering the liquor store, know that he's going there to preach. From a materialistic perspective, you might judge and say, sadhu, going to the liquor store. But the Vaishnava has a different purpose in going to the liquor store. The Vaishnava has a different purpose in becoming the emperor. In the case of Yudhisthira Maharaj, it is all for Krishna's devotional service. It is all for expanding Krishna's glory. Similarly, Arjuna is fighting on the battlefield, and Krishna has told him how to do it. Mam anusmara yudhyachar. You fight while thinking of me. And so the devotees offering everything that they do to Krishna. And as aspiring devotees, that is our challenge. Everything you do, even your attachments, how do they connect to Krishna? See them in relation to Krishna. Be Krishna conscious in all that you do. Even apparent material ambitions, how do they relate to Krishna? How can you connect them to Krishna? If your starting point is the material ambition, at least connect it to Krishna. Yudhisthira Maharaj, the starting point of his ambition may be expanding Krishna's glory. And then the means is by being declared as emperor and having the rulers of the earth pay tribute. But even if it were the other way around, it's still glorious. Everything that the Vaishnava does, they're seeing it in relation to Krishna. And that connection to Krishna is what purifies, transforms. When we offer just regular food produce to Krishna, it becomes prasadam. That prasadam is purifying. So anything that is offered to Krishna becomes transformed, and it becomes purified and purifying. So Gandaki says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I listen to your beautiful kirtans and lectures. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Thank you, Gandaki. We are grateful for your letting us know that you appreciate the service of sharing kirtan and sharing Bhagavatam discussions. That encourages me to know that the Vaishnavas are pleased. I always think that my hope is that sometimes the Vaishnavas told me that they are pleased. And then I think, if the Vaishnavas are pleased, then Krishna is pleased. And so there is hope for us. And so I'm grateful for your sharing that, Kandaki. Thank you very much. Janavamata says, thank you, as always, for sharing the nectar with us. So many valuable lessons and insights, inspirational. What a wonderful example the Lord sets in everything he does and says. We can learn everything we need to know from these glorious pastimes. That's right. My heart is bursting with gratitude. So great to hear. I just want to share this nectar with everyone. This is real life, real love, real leadership. What a wonderful world it would be if we all lived the way of the Lord. Absolutely. So when I lead kirtan or give a talk, I always think my goal is to share bhakti in a way that moves the heart. And so when you say that your heart is bursting with gratitude hearing Bhagavatam, then I also feel grateful for having been part of that. And then that you say that you want to share this with everyone, that's even more wonderful. And that's the way of the Vaishnava. They receive the mercy, and then we have it from Prabhupada. He had the spirit of wanting to share the treasures of bhakti with the world. And we find that when we do so, we experience the treasures of bhakti ourselves even more profoundly. It's the fast track to experiencing Krishna's mercy, the fast track to experiencing the power of the holy name and the power of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita descriptions of Krishna's words and activities. That's, I think, our common experience. Kirtidas says, thank you for a beautiful lecture and your ability to make it so personal. Thank you, Kirtidas, for being here every single time. I'm grateful. Janavamata says, one last realization, your classes are such nectar. I even forgot about hearing on Ekadasi, forgot about everything except hearing the nectar. My heart feels completely satisfied, nourished, and peaceful. Thank you. So thank you for that point, Janavamata. Hearing Bhagavatam is particularly powerful on Ekadasi. Any day to hear Bhagavatam is glorious, but when we hear on Ekadasi, there is even more glory, even more profound benefit. So thank you for bringing that point up as well. The Acharyas, well, the Bhagavatam itself, Sutta Goswami mentions these things, that hearing Bhagavatam on Ekadasi gives particular benefit. Giving Bhagavatam is always glorious. Giving Bhagavatam on a particular Bhadra Purnima is even more powerful. And so our Acharyas point these things out to encourage us to take advantage of hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam at all times, but at least on these particular times, on particular days when the potency is, or the mercy is expanded. Rasastali says, replying to Kirtida, so true. So thank you for that. There's some concurrence, agreement with Kirtida's earlier appreciation for making the teachings of the Bhagavatam personal and relevant. And that's what we try to do here with life lessons from the Bhagavatam. So thank you for that acknowledgement. Janavamata says, okay, one more thing. Srila Prabhupada also exemplified this humble leadership in unlimited ways. Absolutely. That's a special characteristic of Srila Prabhupada. So humble and so firm and so strong and so convinced and so fearless at the same time. And it makes this delightful contrast. Indra Maharaj sometimes likes to, in a different context, but he'll talk about, let's say, what does he say? Chutney. He will say it's so sweet and so hot at the same time that it is irresistible. And so Prabhupada, he has that character. So convinced, so strong, so fearless, and so humble, and so loving, and so kind. And it's a delightful, irresistible combination. So, Mrinalini says, Jai Sri Prahlada Prabhu, thank you for such an amazing class as always. Thank you so much, Mrinalini. I'm grateful for your presence and your appreciation. Yeah, thank you for being here with us and your appreciation of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, yeah, I think Janavamata might have forgotten to eat because it's because of being excited hearing Bhagavatam. Okay, Rasa Stali, sending appreciation there to Janavamata for your comments. May you all deepen in your appreciation of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think that's happening to all of us as we go through the Bhagavatam together. Nikunj is also sending appreciation. I think that we're experiencing the power of this process. So may that continue for all of us. May you deepen in your taste for chanting the holy names with attention. May you deepen in your appreciation for service to Sri Vigraha, the deity. May you deepen your appreciation and attachment for the holy places where Krishna is served. Holy places such as Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, and anywhere in the world where devotional service is performed, service to the deity, service to the holy name, service to Srimad Bhagavatam. May you deepen in your appreciation for Vaishnavas, taking every opportunity that you get to cultivate loving relationships with Vaishnavas, giving your kindness to junior devotees, encouraging them in their practice, sharing love and affection for your peers who are like-minded and at a similar level in spiritual growth, and humbly and faithfully serving those with more spiritual realization and insight who inspire you in your practice. And with these treasures of bhakti that we cultivate, may your heart soften such that you're moved to share bhakti with others, also showing your gratitude to Prabhupada, having been a recipient of his mercy. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.